I'm friends with that rich white girl. You know, that money isn't an obstacle, so I can apply to any school I want, white girl. That calls her babysitter an au pair, white girl. That lives on Wall Street with her stay-at-home mom and Dr. Dad, white girl. That gives you her unused SAT books because she can just buy more, white girl. But that's just what happens when you go to an all-white school. You meet those rich white kids who don't even realize how privileged they are, and so they flaunt it. Usually in subtle ways at first. And for a long time, everything is great. You feel so blessed. Then the flaunting becomes more obvious and starts to feel targeted and tone deaf. Then I felt so pitied. I try to keep up with them, to be as smart as them, to be one of them. But it's hard to keep up when they have tutors and parents who can proofread everything they write and everything else you wish you had but don't. And here I thought I could actually be one of them, that I could actually fit in. But I was wearing rose-colored glasses and I didn't even know it. It took them getting bored of me to realize I would never be one of them. They could call me family, but they didn't mean it. I was just that person who clung to them. Because that's what you do when you're thrown into a school full of people who look at you like you don't belong there. You cling. You cling to the first nice person you meet, and yippee for me, it was the rich white girl. I think she cared. I hope she did. But I don't know, I guess her friendship just wasn't enough to make me feel like I belonged. They placed me in this top school, and that should be worth celebrating, right? I mean, think of all the connections you'll be making. Yet here I am, so lost and broken because I don't fit in with the white girl. How was I friends with the rich white girl?
You know, when you're a little kid and your school starts to teach you about the country's history, you read books that say things like land of the free, liberty, and even just America over the covers. And of course, let's not forget the cute, smiling drawings of slave owners surrounded by the red, white, and blue fireworks. Then the inside always has those ridiculous inspirational quotes that every other white parent says from time to time. You know, like, when you reach the end of your rope, tie a knot and hold on. Franklin D. Roosevelt? Anyway, can you imagine my shock when I learned what complete, utter bullshit that was? I'm here, behind bars, in a place created to cheat the system. I like to think good people can do bad things, but I don't know how good people could ever be behind this. You created a plantation disguised by concrete cells. We still wear our chains. They just go by a different name. But you're still the ones holding the key. How is that justice? You make us look like clowns. Refuse to treat us like first-class citizens. You won't even let us read a book without your approval first. I guess the angry words of the people you've hurt, the people like me, were just too frightening for you. It's easier if we're all too stupid, too blind to say or do anything against you, isn't it? It's easier if we don't even have the words to defend ourselves. Isn't it? It's easier if we have nothing, isn't it? I have nothing. Congrats. You won. I'm at the end of my rope. Except there isn't a knot to hold onto. There's a noose. And you've already slipped it around my neck.
I think my first dream was to be a professional athlete. It's the thrill of the game and the hype from the crowd and all that adrenaline. There's nothing like it. And like I knew this wasn't going to be easy, it never is, but I thought the hardest part was going to be building up the skill, like the actual game, the performance of it all. Have you ever been to a PWI as a black student? Yes? No? Alright, cool. So that shit sucks. Being one of the few, if not the only black kid in your classes is just uncomfortable. But if you go look at our sports teams, like half of them are black. Think about that for a second. Like, that's fucking weird. Why are so many D1 athletes black? Why do so many of these white schools try to recruit it? Oh, wait. Right, it's because they love it when our success puts money in their pockets. Right. They have the resources, the status, the publicity, and most importantly, the money to make going to their schools the only logical option. But once we're there, there's no way out. We're like their dogs. They hold our scholarships and futures over our heads, waiting for us to do our tricks in a way that satisfies them, and only then do they toss us treats. We must remain loyal because they've given us everything. Even if we're unhappy, we can't leave unless they allow it. We are their property, and we have one sole purpose. They could care less how we do at their schools, in their classes. All they care about is how we do on the court or field. There, we have to do well. That's non-negotiable. My success means their profit, plain and simple. But it also means I get my dream. And I'm not just talking about the dream of being a professional athlete. I'm talking about the dream of going to a good school and getting the scholarship to pay for it. Adults are always telling little kids to reach for the sky. I was handed the sky. But carrying the sky on one's shoulders is not an easy thing to do, and the weight of it slowly starts to crush you. It doesn't help having all those eyes on me, watching and waiting. At this point, I can't tell which of them actually want to see me win, and which ones want to see my feet slip out from under me. I mean, lots of them don't even think I deserve to be here. I'm sure they would relish in my failure. But I don't plan on giving them that satisfaction. So what if they're using me? In a way, I'm using them too, right?
Big Brother is watching you. Maybe now you'll actually understand. You white people hate being monitored, you hate being villainized, and you play the victim the second you're questioned. But you still do these things to people like me. You check our bags, you watch our every move, you strip us down and take our innocence with you. You treat us like criminals while we have everything to lose. You put us in cuffs and zip ties while we're trying to go to school. Big Brother is watching you. Are you following? Need me to break it down for you? We're children, and yet you didn't hesitate when murdering our spirits. You left us broken and humiliated as well as beaten and bruised. You set us up for failure because it benefits you and your system. We're on edge because that's the environment you created. We lash out because you already treat us like we're hostile. We miss class because of you and your prejudice. Big Brother is watching you. Except, it's not you he's watching, it's me. Not because I'm doing anything wrong, but because you don't believe I'm capable of doing good. You accuse, you don't prove, you attack, you don't protect, you control, You don't educate. We know that no one ever seizes power with the intention of relinquishing it. The power is yours because you took it while our hands were tied and our backs were whipped. Big Brother is watching you.
Five things I can see. My backpack, that chair, a window, books, you. You think I'm gonna fail anyway, so why bother trying? But at the same time, I want to prove you wrong. But that just makes it worse. I start to shake, my breathing is more labored, and any air that actually enters my lungs just floods me with guilt. I'm not doing enough. I need to do more. I need to prove you wrong. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Okay, 4 things I can touch. My shirt, my pants, my hair, my necklace. My friend gave me this necklace. The same friend you seem to hate. The same friend you advised me not to spend time with because they'll only bring me down. Because you already deem them a failure, and I'll be one too, just by association. Because you can't be the token black kid if you're standing alone. Okay, 3 things I can hear. My voice, footsteps, whispers. I hear the whispers in the hall. The conversations between teachers, you saying I'll never amount to anything if I keep it up. But you've already made it clear you've given up on teaching me, despite me still trying to learn. Why do I even bother? 2 things I can smell. My conditioner and my coffee. The coffee is to keep me up while I work. It's the only way I'll be able to prove I'm worthy. Of what exactly? I'm not sure yet. 1 thing I can taste. My meds. The meds are for the anxiety. The coffee helps take the taste out of my mouth.
Separate but equal. A bold statement from people who don't really care. A cute little band-aid to cover up their racism. The pipe dream that will never come to pass. Maybe they were onto something. It would be nice if it were true. If they actually provided the funds to execute it. If things were actually equal. It would be better. Better than this hostility we're forced to accept. Better than this sugar-coated lies they try to pass as fact. Better than making us survivors before we even get the chance to be kids. In school, we're subjected to their racism, then expected to accept their guilt as though it were an apology. They cry about our struggles because it makes them feel better about themselves. In history classes, they paint themselves as heroes and diminish our hardships. They claim the Civil War happened because of states' rights, but forget to mention the rights they were fighting for was the right to own slaves. In science, they avoid telling us about the times our doctors would sterilize us because they deemed us unfit to reproduce. They teach us about HeLa cells while looking over the lack of consent involved in failing to tell us anything more about Henrietta Lacks than her name. And for a long time, we didn't even realize we should be questioning any of this. Dealing with this doesn't make us resilient. Dealing with this doesn't make us forgiving. Dealing with this doesn't make us okay. We deal with this because you never gave us a choice. Integration wasn't a solution. It was an insult. I hate that they'd be getting what they want. But hey, at least then we'd learn about an unfiltered history we actually care about. At least then we won't be made to feel guilty for wanting a black space. At least then we'd be treated with respect. Separate but equal. It's a shame it didn't work out. I used to really like school. But these schools care more about these tests than they do our success. These dumbass tests that do nothing but discourage us. You center our futures around them in these sets of numbers. Like, are you really surprised why we hate learning? Except your goal isn't to teach us. It's to strike fear into us. You use these tests to keep us out because you love the power all of this gives you. We do well, you give us more money if you're feeling generous. We do badly, you make cuts as if we aren't already missing everything that makes school fun. You give us the choice to either exist as you like us or fade into nothing. And it starts the second we begin school. You dehumanize us with your nonsense and excuse it by claiming it's for our benefit. But let's be real. These tests aren't for us. They're for you. So you can decide who is cut out for your world and who is not. And for those of us who fail, that's all you'll ever see. You will forever assume our failure is our own fault, not the fault of the test and system you created. But the alternative isn't much better. Being celebrated for breaking your bullshit stereotypes, for being different from the other black people you know. There is no winning. I will never meet this ridiculous standard of yours. I'll never be smart enough. I'll never score high enough. I'll never be enough. All because you made sure the odds were against me. These tests aren't our way in. It's your way of keeping us out. And you ruined something I loved just to satisfy your hunger for power. So tell me, are you satisfied? They don't let us wear do-rags or headscarves to school. Something about it being unprofessional and distracting. But they also like to say these same things about my natural hair. Like, I'm sorry, can you remind me how my hair has anything to do with you or my education? I get it, you're white and you don't get how something like hair could be so insanely important to anyone, but that's just it. It's not just hair. My hair is culturally significant. Just because you don't see how doesn't make it any less true. My hair is presentable. It's not my fault that your idea of presentable is rooted in racism. It's funny because they'll look at me dead in the eyes and say that their rules aren't meant to be discriminatory, yet the only people they target are people like me. Do you not understand that your actions teach us to hate our hair as it naturally grows from our heads? How is that okay? My hair is natural. Saying it's not is just ignorant and cruel. I hear this statement a lot. It's the one they give right before they force us to destroy our hair. I shouldn't have to permanently damage my hair for you to deem it acceptable. I'm not a team player because I let you cut off my hair when you made it clear I had no other choice. I'm sure if someone chopped off your hair or your kid's hair, you'd be furious. So why aren't you furious when it happens to me? Just because it doesn't affect you doesn't mean it's not an issue. My hair does not distract from your respectful and serious atmosphere. Your attitude does. Why am I to blame? When one of these white kids decided they can touch and play with my hair, how is it my fault when I never gave them permission and repeatedly asked them to stop? How does this reflect poorly on me and not them? Why am I the problem? Your behavior is traumatizing, your apologies are insincere, and your inaction means nothing. My hair is beautiful. Every kink, coil, and curl, perfectly imperfect. Just as it should be. Everything about it is like a work of art. Now, I know people will probably say I'm being shallow, but frankly, I don't care. I spent way too long believing people when they told me my hair was a problem, and I refuse to think that anymore. My hair is a part of who I am, and I won't let you take that away from me. My hair is beautiful.
Okay, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, so if y'all don't mind, I'm gonna just walk you through it real quick. You know when people have a really good idea, but for whatever reason, they just can't seem to execute it right? That's how I feel about charter schools. On paper, these schools seem like a dream come true, you know? Just picture it. Going to a predominantly black school with black teachers, good funding, and a black-centered education. Who wouldn't want that? When you spend so much of your time in schools where you're treated like the odd one out by your classmates or a troublemaker by your teachers, you start to just hate it altogether. Then those feelings are just made worse when your entire education is centered around white European culture and rhetoric. You start to dream of a place with people who understand and respect you. Of a school that teaches you your history in a way that doesn't justify or ignore the actions of those who have hurt people like yourself. It's a pretty picture we've thought up. It's just a shame how far we are actually from achieving it. I know a lot of us have turned to these charters in hopes of making this dream a reality. I mean, there are some predominantly black charters that get close to the dream, and overall, black students do slightly better in charters than in other public schools. So there are some good things, but they're still far from perfect. I mean, for one, they focus a lot on standardized testing, and y'all seem like smart people. I'm sure you know how that's an issue, right? Yeah. Okay, good. So if that isn't bad enough, black teachers are constantly being removed from these schools. And black students are expelled more so than any of the white kids. Like for that, I would just go to any other school. But the thing is, charters are also publicly funded, meaning they take money from any of the other schools I could be going to, making those schools even worse. It's like a never-ending cycle of disappointment. I mean, I believe everyone should get a choice about what schools they go to, but personally, I wouldn't know which to pick. I don't know, maybe there's just no winning here. Maybe school choice is nothing more than an illusion. So we believe there's something better for us out there when there really isn't. Maybe one day a school for black folk that actually promotes our success won't seem like such a pipe dream. Maybe holding on to that hope will be worth something in the end.
It will never cease to amaze me how hard white people will go to claim that they are being oppressed. But hey, just so everyone here is clear, you are not oppressed because you didn't get into your dream school, and I or some other black person did. We did not get into college because of affirmative action. We got in because we worked our asses off. The admissions process was not rigged against you. I understand how upsetting and frustrating applying to college can be. I also totally get how devastating it is not to get into a school you really wanted to go to. But the fact of the matter is these schools make their decisions based on so many factors that to assume affirmative action is the sole reason for your rejection is just ridiculous. I get it. You want someone to blame, but don't blame black people and the system meant to level the playing field for us. At this point in our show, I'm hoping you are able to realize just how much the systems of our society work against us simply because of our race. So let us have this one thing that is meant to make up for a little bit of that injustice. It's not like we're being handed opportunities we don't deserve. We get into these schools because we're qualified. We get into these schools because we're a good fit. We get into these schools because they want us there. If you were a perfect applicant for a school, then you'd get in, and my acceptance wouldn't affect that. But the thing is, y'all are so threatened by black success, you think the only explanation for it is that we're stealing something from you. You don't care that your big name schools like Harvard, USC, and Oberlin are predominantly white. You don't acknowledge that black students are already underrepresented on these campuses, even with affirmative action. All you care about is that you, your friends, or your kids didn't get in, but a black person did. So you know what? Let's end affirmative action. When no black kids get into these schools, once you've pushed out every single minority, let's see who you blame for your failure then.
You know what I've never understood? Dress codes. These things have pissed me off for as long as I can remember. I've had teachers try and tell me that they're meant to teach us how to dress professionally, yet we'd still be allowed to wear sweats and graphic tees. Like, how does that make any sense? Oh, right. It doesn't. Let's be real. Dress codes have one purpose, and it's to police our bodies. And while you might say they apply to everyone, us black kids are the ones who've got to deal with it the most. You let it slide when the white kids break the rules, but always come after us. I couldn't even tell you how many times I'll be wearing the exact same outfit as one of my white friends, yet be the only one getting dress coded. Just because my clothes fit differently does not give you the right to sexualize me or my body. Just because I am built differently does not mean I automatically am promiscuous. Just because I'm black does not mean I'm unprofessional. As if these rules weren't bad enough, some schools I've been to make us buy uniforms. But the thing is, the uniforms will be really simple clothes with the school logo on them. So I spend like $100 on each uniform and have to buy more than one. Like, I can't afford that. I could be buying $4 jeans at a thrift store, or even the same sorts of clothes you want me to wear for way less, but because it doesn't have your logo, and because the colors might be the slightest bit off, I'm not allowed to do that. Y'all act like without these rules, the world's gonna fall apart. But no one actually cares what I wear in the real world. You say my clothes are a distraction, yet the only thing distracting me and my friends is your behavior. You want me to respect you? You need to respect me first. I spend the vast majority of my time with adults like you, who are willing to compromise my education and my future by sending me home over some overly critical rules someone with way too much power decided to make. Honestly though, the best part are your reactions when we call you out. Y'all get all defensive like we're the ones doing the attacking. Like, I'm sorry, last I checked, calling out people's very obvious prejudice and double standards isn't aggressive. It's called holding people accountable. I talk back because your behavior is insulting. Do better. And while I still have your attention, I'm gonna say this one last time. My blackness is not unprofessional. I'm gonna be real with you and say I'm one of them people who goes over every single conversation I think I'm gonna have in my head before I have them. Sometimes. I even say them out loud, for good measure. The reason being that it's the only way I know how to survive. I learned from a really young age that white people don't fuck with you if you don't sound like them. And that only became more true the older I got. Let me break it down for you. In school, we all learn standard English, but that don't mean I be talking like that with my friends and family. But at school or work or really anywhere considered a professional environment, I switch up my vernacular completely to one I know they ain't about to judge me for. And let's be real, by professional environments, I mean anywhere with mostly white people, and that includes the houses of my white friends. Learned that one the hard way when my white friend's parents gave me the stank face for talking like this. Apparently, to be deemed respectable and intelligent in our society, I cannot talk in a way I feel most comfortable. Instead, I must emulate their way of speech. I think I'm making it quite clear that I am not unintelligent. Just because I elect to use a pattern of speech and terminology that is more colloquial in its nature does not give you the right to judge me. You do not have the right to judge me. And that goes double for your comments about how I'm not like other black people since I sound so intelligent. That ain't the compliment you think it is. Talking like that ain't easy. It's exhausting. I'm constantly worrying about how I sound and if it'll be acceptable. And how is that okay? Nah, for real, explain it to me. How is it okay for me to be freaking out over how I speak since I've been in elementary school? Why are y'all white people so pressed over words? Like, honestly, y'all need to chill. It ain't that deep. Yet, if I am unable to switch back to the type of dialogue you approve of, I pay the price. Not only will I be treated with less respect by my teachers, but you'll also pass me up on promotions I rightfully deserve. You made code switching a necessity for our success and survival in this world, but refuse to acknowledge the toll it takes on us. You ignore it because you like the comfort our pain brings you. The thing is, I've been doing this for so long, I don't even realize it anymore. Didn't even know what code switching was when I started. It just sort of happened. Was pretty shocked when I learned, though. It's mad annoying when you realize you've been subconsciously changing your behavior to please the people around you. You feel lost and confused. But hopefully you'll eventually realize the same thing I did. That I shouldn't be afraid to show the world my blackness just because it makes them uncomfortable. I love my parents. I want to start this off by saying that. I don't hate or resent them any more than any other kid might. Which I'm sure comes as a shock to many of you because of the fact that one of my parents is incarcerated. As if that wasn't hard enough to deal with as a kid. Try putting my parents' divorce and my family's money problems on top of it. Like, I know what you're gonna say. Just ignore it. You're not the one who has to deal with it. It's not your job to worry about it. But that's not how life works. For a long time, there was nothing I could do to help. I couldn't get a legal job until I was 16, but once I could, every paycheck went to help support my family because I went through those hard times too. I remember the day my dad was arrested. I was so scared. Those cops were gonna hurt him. I remember the day my dad was arrested. I was so scared those cops were gonna hurt him. I just wanted them to let him go. I didn't want them to put him away, but they did. Then all I wanted was for my mom to hug me. I remember missing school for the court dates. My mom missed work, something about showing a united family front. But I think that tactic only works for white people. Sure as hell didn't work for us. My parents got divorced sometime later. I don't remember how long. Those days were pretty dark, and it became hard to tell when one ended and the next began. Mom would still take us to visit him, though. I was so excited every time. All I ever wanted to do was run up to my dad and hug him, but the guards wouldn't allow it. The first time they put him away when I tried. First time they put him away when I tried. I remember thinking they were mean and crying because I didn't want them to be mean to my dad. He didn't deserve that. I remember thinking they were mean and crying because I didn't want them to be mean to my dad. He didn't deserve that. I also remember Mom working all the time after Dad got arrested, trying to make ends meet. I caught her crying a few times while looking over the bills. I remember being hungry a lot of the time, especially on weekends. After a while, I realized if I could eat as much of the free school food as possible, I could help with that. I'd eat my food, then whatever food my friends had but didn't like. Then I'd convince my favorite lunch teachers to let me have an extra apple or milk. I'd do whatever I could to not be as hungry when I got home. I made sure my little brother did the same thing. Hopefully then we wouldn't need as much food and our mom wouldn't be as worried. When you have all these things on your mind all the time, something is bound to slip through the cracks. For me, it was school, mostly because I couldn't let it be work. I missed school a few times to take on an extra shift. Figured we needed the money more than I needed to be there. I only really kept going to school because my folks wanted me to. But it didn't seem important anymore. Not with everything else going on. And it wasn't all that easy anymore. Except for math. I made sure I was good at that to help my mom manage our money. I'd get behind on my homework, then my grades slipped, and with it, all my motivation. I would be angry all the time because I just wanted to help, but nothing ever seemed like enough. You can't expect a kid who goes through that sort of thing to just be okay. Life just isn't the same. I said before, I love my parents, and I do. That doesn't change the fact that my dad's incarceration and everything after it took a toll on me. I just wish more people realized how much.
Well, that was a lot for you guys, I'm sure. You look like you've got a lot going on in that little brain of yours. Doing some reflecting, maybe you've learned a thing or two. Yeah. Good. Well, since I still have your attention, I want to talk about one more thing. Since the start of this play, you've heard story after story and rant after rant about the issues we Black people face every day in the world of education. You've got some of the good, some of the bad, even some of the sad. But most importantly, I'm hoping some of you at least felt heard. I know some of you felt called out. Maybe like you were even being yelled at. Well deserved. Who said that? Anyway, the point I'm trying to make, the point all of us have been trying to make, is that racism is woven into the very fabric of beings. We see it in every aspect of our society, from our politics to our education system, and it's not just going to go away because we want it to. We've allowed it a place in our world from the very beginning, but because only some of us are negatively affected by it, it often goes unnoticed. So maybe this play will help with it. Maybe now you'll think about how racism presents itself, even through some of the smallest interactions. Maybe now you'll consider how white people prioritize interest convergence out of nothing short of selfish ignorance. Maybe now you'll challenge the white European ideologies that are so prevalent in our world. Lots of states nowadays want to stop kids from even discussing the topics in this play. Just the mention of critical race theory or the establishment of the Africana Studies departments threatens the blissful ignorance many people find comfort in. So, while trying not to sound overly preachy right now, if we want to make an actual difference in our world, we need to be willing to have these discussions. We've taken you through the stories of our Blackness. I just hope your journey doesn't end here.